Hello, everybody, and welcome to the PC Gamer Show for December 6th, 2017. The year is almost up. My name is James Davenport. I'm an associate editor at PC Gamer, and joining me today, we got Bo Moore,
Hey, that's me.
editor. Yeah,
how's it going?
Good. I'm feeling good. It's the end of the year, and pretty soon here I'll be going to a distant land and sitting on a couch and drinking for about 2 weeks straight.
Nice.
That's
the dream, I think.
and not playing games.
Which state is this distant land that you're going to?
This is Montana.
Montana.
You might know Montana as the setting of the next Far Cry game, where all of the racist, crazy religious people in the world live.
Sounds good.
Yeah, partially true. Also, we have Chris Livingston with us. How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing good.
Digitally.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, where are you going for the holidays, Chris?
I'm taking a big trip about 25 feet that way to the couch.
Nice. All right,
That's where
on.
I'll be for most of it, I believe.
That sounds really good.
Yeah.
So some of you might be noticing a new camera setup. Well, we're in a new room, first of all. We have more space. We have foam, as you can see, in our brand's beautiful black and red.
Our room is extremely on brand.
Yeah, it's so brand. These chairs, black and red.
It's almost like we're PC gamers.
Yeah, the emotions I'm feeling right now I would describe as are black and red. But that also means we had to, set everything up within a very short period of time and without a ton of expert help. Luckily, Paul, our video guy, kind of helped with some of the hardest stuff. So we're going to be ironing out a few things over the next coming weeks, including the camera. You may notice is like a little blurry and out of focus. It's because we are not using the camera we used to. The camera quality is god-awful. We're using a webcam at the moment. I think we're going to get a different camera or see if we can get this one to work better. We'll see. It's all we have for right now, so please bear with us this week. Audio, if you're hearing any new fuzz or if there's any hitches in the sound quality, we'll also try to iron those out as quickly as we can. A new room, new environment, so there might be ambient noises or some kind of interference on the mics and our setup that we got to figure out. But we're up here and we're working, and you can hear our voices and you can see the blurry outlines of our bodies, and that is probably enough. Chris, though, looking sharp as hell.
I look super sharp HD, so I think that's
Chris in
really
HD.
No longer living on a monitor, so that means I can do stuff like this. Chris can just kind of...
Whoa.
Where'd Bo go?
I don't know. It's just Chris now.
It's just Chris now.
Except Chris has hair.
Okay, start moving your mouth, Chris. Bo, start telling us how you feeling.
I play video games, and my name is Chris Livingston. And that's about all I got.
Our audio listeners are probably really loving this bit. Let's move you back to the corner, Chris. That's
Go back to the corner.
Back to the corner with you, son. We're gonna get a new table. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be just so great, you guys. Anyway, what are we gonna talk about today? We have a show. We have stuff to cover. We're gonna open up with some news. We're gonna hit some news real quick. We're gonna talk about what we've been playing. Today is today the start of the Overwatch League preseason.
The preseason is today.
So Bo's gonna give us a
little run through,
primer on what to kind of expect and where to watch and what to watch. And then I'm going to give some brief impressions on the Destiny 2 expansion, and then we are going to do your Twitch chat Q&A as usual. So good stuff. Let's open up with the news right now.
What has been happening?
What has been happening? There's a new Portal game. Did you guys know this?
Sort of.
Yes.
It's not exactly the kind of Portal game you would want. But it's maybe
It's a Portal game nonetheless.
But a Portal game
My
you
reaction
need.
was kind of like, okay. It was kind of like a new Portal. Well, not quite, but it's sort of a new Portal.
Yeah, Chris. So did you read up on this? Do you understand what this is exactly?
I watched the very short trailer for it.
Okay.
So I guess it's not a Valve game.
No.
In the sense that we would maybe have hoped. Doesn't even look like a first-person game. It's Bridge. What's it called? Bridge Constructor Portal?
That is correct. Bridge Constructor Portal.
So yeah, I guess they licensed out Portal to the Bridge Constructor team, and it looks like you'll be using portals and bridges and trucks, and GLaDOS is there. So I didn't mean to say like I was terribly disappointed or like think it looks bad. It was just when you hear new Portal game, you kind of think, oh, a new Portal game, and this is sort of a Portal, I don't know what you call it, Portal franchise license game. So
yeah, and I think it's a good mix of properties. If you were ever to mix them, it kind of took me a bit to understand what I was reading this morning.
So Bridge Constructor is an established franchise or something? I'm not familiar with it at all, actually.
I suppose so.
It is a thing that exists.
It's a thing that exists,
All right.
and that's coming out. So I don't know exactly when. Let me refer back to that news story.
Yep.
It's December 20th,
it's
2017.
this month, yeah,
pretty soon.
So that should be pretty cool. I mean, I still want Valve to make games, and this looks like a high quality thing. And
the thing for me is like what makes a Portal game is both like really high quality puzzles and like a curious, engaging, and like very witty story.
Yeah.
With like, you know, these witty characters bantering with each other and with you and such. And, you know, even if the puzzles are like top notch, just kind of putting them in the Portal universe won't really mean anything unless they also add that like really strong writing. So
I hope so. And I guess GLaDOS is present and providing some kind of VO. Right. So, you know, as long as there's
hopefully she says things other than just like the cake is a lie.
I would love it as the foil to God, what's the Polybridge? As the foil to Polybridge's like very soothing guitar soundtrack, I would love for GLaDOS just to be as demeaning as possible about what a poor engineer you are.
Just stressing you out about your bridges.
Oh, absolutely.
Mocking your efforts and things.
I would be so into that. Let's move on from Portal and into some more news. Also, this week, we got some new news on PUBG's new desert map. Specifically that it has a name now. Did you know this?
Whoa.
I got some new screens, which is good. The name is Miramar.
Does the first map even have a name?
I don't know. Do you know, Chris?
It does, yeah. It does, but I can't even think of it. It's, I can't remember what it's called.
The Island.
I wrote it like 15 times in an article I wrote about it, but I can't remember what it's called.
Cool.
Someone will know.
Let's just call it The Island. So yeah, there's some new in-game footage coming or to be premiering at the Game Awards tomorrow. Probably introduced by either Hideo Kojima or Jeff Keighley or whatever presenter they have going on. There are some in this news story. There are some landmarks detailed and named as well. And Chris, you got to kind of wander this map a couple, or at least like an earlier version of this map a couple months ago, didn't you?
Yeah, I got to run around in it solo in kind of an early build, and looking at a lot of these images today, like this stuff wasn't there. There weren't really any big, like there weren't any big cities, there weren't any big towns, or even really any big buildings. And this looks like there's some factories and construction cranes and things like that weren't anywhere in there. So definitely does look like it's progressed quite a bit.
Well, that's good to know. I'm excited to play that map. Hopefully still, I guess we'll know Thursday, ideally, if it's coming out by the end of the year. Did they ever say that PUBG is not making 2017 yet?
I think they said they're trying to launch then, right? I don't know.
Their plan was PUBG 1.0 by the end of the year.
God damn.
Which is coming up very quick. And also PUBG 1.0 would include the vaulting and climbing and the Miramar, as it's called now, map. So I haven't heard anything different as of yet. So I think we can still expect both the map and the vaulting and the full release of the game some point in the next 25 days.
I feel we all have break, like we all have like a week or two off at the end of the year, and I feel sorry for.
They're gonna screw us. They're gonna come in at like December 27th and be like, "Hey, it's out."
Okay.
I'll have to come in. I'll have to walk that 25 feet
Oh,
from
no.
the captains
You
of here
poor bastard. Oh, man.
and do some writing.
And then die a bunch over and over and over. Cool. One more thing I want to touch on in the news is that Ubisoft is giving 2 games away this month.
That's nice of them.
Yeah, it is nice of them. World in Conflict. I don't know anything about it, what World in Conflict is, but that means something to some people, I'm sure. More importantly, or at least more striking, is that Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag is going to be free December 18th or December 11th to the 18th. So you have to use Uplay for this, obviously, but that's a pretty good deal. You guys, that's commonly known and regarded as the best Assassin's Creed, or at least pre-Origins, was commonly described as that. So get out there and get that game if you haven't yet. Some good pirate ship action. I never did that stuff, but I've seen the sea shanties. I've seen the... Can you harpoon whales in this game?
I don't know. I never played it either.
Damn it.
I think you can.
I guess I'll have to
think
get
you
it.
can shoot whales. I can't recall though. It's been a while.
We need a whaling game, I'm telling you. I'm telling you.
Forget pirates. Let's just go whaling.
So those are just some little bits of news I wanted to touch on before we move into now playing. And I'm sure you guys have been playing a lot, Bo, specifically.
I have been playing a game for once.
Actually, you have.
For once, a game that isn't Overwatch.
Yeah, and what game is this, Bo?
It's true. I've been playing Nier Automata. That game is really cool. It is not new. It came out way earlier this year. But yeah, it's one of those games that I have always I've heard a bunch about over the last several months and have been meaning to hit it, and I'm finally getting the chance. It's really cool. I know you liked it a whole lot, James, if I do remember correctly.
You know, I still have not finished it because I just hit a point that frustrated me. But what I have played...
You finished, like, the full run-through, right?
Oh, I did A and B and a good chunk of C.
Okay. See, I don't even know. I'm still on A. Like, I haven't gotten...
Christ. Okay.
I'm quite...
You got a lot to see, man.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm maybe, like... 10 or 12 hours in or something.
Right.
Like, I think that's what my playtime says. I don't know how much I've actually played of it versus like idle on a menu. But yeah, I had a hard time getting into it. The control, I really don't like how it feels, at least at first.
Mm-hmm.
Part of it, I think, is because I just finished playing Mario Odyssey, where like the controls are super, super tight and like you have a really precise, fine control over your character and your movement and everything, whereas Nier is very, very flowy and very like you have a lot of momentum to your movements.
Yes.
You barely tap the control stick and your character will like kind of shift a whole bunch. And that was very jarring at first. Now I've kind of gotten used to it a bit and it's a bit better. But yeah, in a weird way, like the gameplay itself is like my least favorite part of that game.
I would agree.
It's an okay action RPG, but like it's not the best one that I've played, and I haven't even played that many. But the story and the setting and just everything else that it does is just so cool.
Yeah, it's more. It slowly reveals itself to be more about, I don't know. It uses like the action RPG as like a an excuse to talk about games as a whole and the kind of story existence.
I love everything from the way it handles just saving as a simple thing. Like pretty much everything in this game is like dealt with in some way in universe or in game, and I think that's really, really cool. And just all of that stuff, and then the storyline and all the questions it.
Yeah, and that extent, I'm super curious. This is like, I've said this to like 6 different people over the year who are on playthrough A. I'm so curious to know what you think when you hit B, because it takes that kind of thing and almost I don't say invert is not the right word, but it really blows up sort of the in-game
like so. I mean,
it.
I don't really know much about playthrough B other than that it is like a quote-unquote new game plus type situation where you are basically replaying the game. That's all I really know, and so I'm very curious to see how it does this in a way that like makes sense and like makes me want to play it. And I'm pretty excited.
It plays very differently. I'm so excited to hear it. I really want to go back and finish it.
I think I'm getting pretty close to there. I'm at the like I just got like the scanner pod and I did like one thing after getting the scanner pod. I've like used it to do what I am supposed to do with it.
Okay.
So that's where I am.
Right on. Well, do keep me informed of different
will.
points. I'm sure you won't be able to help yourself once you hit certain points. Cool. Anything else?
That's pretty much all I've been playing.
Any Overwatch? We'll get to that in a bit. I suppose,
yeah.
but-
I've been playing that a little bit off and on. There's some cool stuff that's been happening. Like we got the new character Moira that was revealed at BlizzCon. She's out and live now. I think she's even playable and competitive at this point. So
Cool.
It's been pretty cool. It's nice to have another healer character.
She fitting in all right?
Yeah. She's like, I sort of view her as she's like a main healer, like a Mercy or so, as opposed to like an off healer like Zen or Lucio that kind of doubles as a DPS. Although she does not a lot of DPS, but you have to play relatively offensive with her because you have to like use her healing meter has like a limited resource, and you recharge that by dealing damage. So you can't just like sit and heal only. You have to like kind of get aggressive at certain points.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a different style healer, and it's just nice having more alternatives to Mercy and the regular healers. Like there's like 6 tanks, and like there were 4 healers with like 16 or 18 or so DPS. So basically, like granted, you only need 1 or 2 tanks and 1 or 2 healers per team, and then the rest is filled out with DPS. So you need like, there should be more options there, but like if you were playing DPS, it always felt like you had way more options available to you.
Right.
Whereas like if you were healing, you had very few choices. So
Cool.
it feels good having just more options there to different play styles.
Still growing, still fun.
Yeah, it's a good game.
And when did that game come out?
Over a year, more than a year ago. It was like August, I think, of 2016.
I'm gonna blink and I'll have a kid who's like 5 and he's playing Overwatch when it has like I'm scared. That's how I feel about TF2. It's just gonna fly by and make me feel like death is imminent. But I'm glad you're enjoying it. Death is always imminent. That is true. Chris, what you been playing, man?
I think the latest was I played Doom VFR over the weekend.
VFR.
I got a Vive headset, and that had just come out, and it seemed like, hey, Doom in VR. That's something I should probably immerse myself in. And it's kind of weird. It's like very cool. It's very cool to be like fully 360 in the Doom universe, and like just like I didn't know this until I actually bought the game, but it's like it's not Doom. It's not like the game of Doom brought to VR. It's like an episode, sort of a connected universe type thing. You're not the Doom guy, you're this other guy, and it's sort of like a Doom, I don't know, episode, I guess. That is, it's a completely different game than actual Doom, and it's really neat. I mean, it's really neat to be kind of in that world, immersed like that. But it just feels so like weird. It's so decidedly undoomy, just because of you're just used to being so fast and quick, and I don't know, just things like turning your head just seem like, even just turning your head like normally is not as fast as you will look around, and when you're playing Doom,
Right.
you'll be looking so quickly. So even just kind of having to do that movement, even if it's not slow, like just feels like everything just feels really slowed down in terms of when you're playing and there's action and things going on. But at the same time, it's like, it's really cool. I mean, I feel like they did a good job with the VR. It is very cool to like, go into a room and like there's a giant Doom monster like just looming over you. It's like, holy shit. So I was like, as an experience, as something to kind of like feel like you're visiting. I think when I wrote about it, I said it felt like a Doom exhibit or like a theme park ride kind of thing, where there's like lots of cool things happening in sights and sounds, but you don't really feel like engaged in the way that playing an FPS does. You know what I mean? But definitely neat. It's very cool to like pick up a weapon, one of the Doom weapons, and just have it like in your hand, to like look at and inspect, and at the same time it feels kind of weird because it's like this giant thing that you can't even see all of it. It's so big, but of course it's weightless because you're just holding a controller. So it's kind of a weird. It doesn't really feel like Doom. It feels like you're kind of visiting a Doom. I don't know. It's really hard to describe. Like, I enjoyed it without really having a lot of fun.
Is it actually on rails, or do you have full movement?
Well, using the controllers, you can teleport or you can do a little hop.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And there's a mod for it. I actually spent some time trying to install this mod that will give you free movement with those Vive controllers. But unfortunately, Steam VR beta had updated, and the mod doesn't work with the new version. So hopefully they'll update the mod and I'll actually get to try that, because I think that would be more fun, feel more like you're there. There's something kind of that makes you feel disconnected when you're just sort of hopping around or teleporting around. That feels, it's weird, you know, you have this like full immersion, but you don't feel really connected because of that. I guess the concerns about motion sickness kind of have left a lot of these kind of games like looking for answers of how to really move properly. So I think it would definitely add more to be able to slide around like I've seen them doing on PS4 version and stuff like that. Yeah, and it's kind of like you're in a lab, and of course the demons are invading, and you have to kind of go visit these other areas of the lab to restore power or get this thing working. And you kind of go there and you go back, and it's kind of like back and forth trips. In each trip, 100 monsters attack you. It's cool. I enjoyed it without really being like, yay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that Bethesda got a good. Well, we'll see what VR looks like in a couple of years, but I'm glad they had at least a big push of games come out or are still coming out. Like Skyrim VR is out, right? Is that on PC?
Skyrim VR is out, not for PC.
Not PC yet.
Fallout 4 VR, full Fallout 4, the complete game in VR is out next week.
Right on. And you're going to be trying that?
Yes, I'm going to be trying that. I'm really curious to see like how that, because I played a shitload of Fallout 4, and like I haven't done a lot in VR until now. Like I've been to some demos and tried a few games out here and there, so it'll be interesting to see. Like, it's really hard for me to imagine playing a full game in VR. I think I kind of get to about a half an hour and I'm like, all right, I gotta get this. Maybe I'm just tired of standing or something, or moving, or just having a headset on, or I just feel kind of like, okay, I think that's enough. But I am really interested to see how they manage to take a game, like a complete game. And Fallout 4 is it's a big game. There's a lot of stuff to do. I mean, like, just trying to think of all the times I've spent just tinkering around in settlements and stuff, and that's all going to be in VR. And I don't know, it's interesting. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing how they did it.
So I got to play a short demo of Fallout 4 VR, and I think there was something wrong, because I don't get sick playing VR games anymore. I feel like the more often you do, like, you play free movement VR games, your brain just does adjust eventually. Or at least some people it can. And Fallout 4 VR, I think the problem was I was in some power armor, and what it does is when you're in power armor, it basically scales you up and people down a little bit, so everything looks tinier, just a little bit tinier than normal, and your relation to the world, like, it looks very cool, and it looks, you feel, without using too many buzzwords, present, or at least like in a space in Fallout 4's world. But my relation to things spatially, it was just slightly off, that I wanted to vomit within like 5 minutes.
Jeez.
So maybe power armor is maybe that's just a natural debuff of using power armor, I suppose. But I'm super curious to see, because I'm sure you'll get some good. Chris already does a bunch of really funny diaries and such in Bethesda's game, so I'm curious to see what a VR version of that looks like, and if hopefully you can get some good GIFs out of that, or at least footage. Anyway, anything else, Chris? Anything else you've been playing?
That's pretty much been it in the last few days.
Right on. We're all pretty busy getting down to it. I want to talk briefly about something I've been playing, and it's a small game, a free game on Steam actually, called Doki Doki Literature Club.
I've heard of this game, but I know nothing about what it is about.
Wow, it doesn't even fit on
Is that the one that no one will talk about because they don't want to spoil it?
Yeah, and here's the thing. I'm just gonna spoil it, but like I'm gonna spend like 30 seconds talking about it, and I'm gonna spoil it. If you don't want to listen, including you two, plug your ears, take off, But let me just lay the groundwork here. It's a visual novel. Is that what they're called? Why am I'm like brain farting, and that word sounds very foreign to me.
Visual novel.
Visual novel. Called Doki Doki Literature Club. It's free on Steam and itch.io, I believe. And the premise is very similar to a lot of these. It's like a dating sim premise where you're some guy and you're in a Japanese high school, and your friend invites you to join a literature club, which happens to be full of attractive women your age who are all interested in you, or at least inclined to be interested in you. And the first 30 minutes plays very similar to something like, I've never played one of those games, but you talk to these characters, like things happen in the day. You get to kind of like, there's a system where every meeting you have, you're asked to write a new poem. And so you go home, and writing a poem in the game is abstracted as choosing words from a list 20 times. So there's different words like that with different kind of that represent different writing styles. That some are very simple and cute, and some are very kind of pretentious. Some are very dark and brooding. And depending on which words you choose, when you workshop the poem at the next meeting, certain girls are more inclined to crush on you because they're like, "Ooh, you write like I like." But here's where the spoilers come in, and I'm telling you, I'm going to talk about this for like 30 seconds, maybe. Skip ahead a minute just to be safe. 3, 2, 1. After about, I don't know, 30 minutes to an hour, it slowly is revealed that one of the girls is controlling the whole game, and you start noticing things go awry. They start sort of breaking the fourth wall, showing you horrifying things. Some of the women start killing themselves because they become so obsessed with you and they're driven to madness. It gets really, really fucking dark. There's some really cool like visual cues and sort of subtle things that it does not happen all at once. And it's kind of an effective short horror game for people who are into that kind of thing. I don't want to get into too much detail on like where it goes, but it goes further than I thought and does some pretty interesting stuff. So if you like horror and you have 2 hours maybe, play this game. It's pretty cool. Doki Doki Literature Club.
So kind of like the audition version of the audition for games, where it's like, oh, this is a nice romantic comedy, and then it's the worst nightmare you've ever seen.
Essentially.
I got it.
And for the people now coming in after the spoiler warning, Doki Doki Literature Club is a pure innocent game that hides nothing. It's very superficial, and you should play it. Play it with your kids. Just kidding. Don't play it with your kids. It's like prefaced by a bunch of warnings because it shows some pretty freaky shit. All right, well, let's move on here. So, Bo.
That's me.
Today's a momentous day in sports, online sports. What are they called?
Esports.
Overwatch League preseason kicks off today. And for some of you who are maybe out of the loop, can you first kind of tell us what the hell Overwatch League is and what sets it apart from maybe other leagues?
Yeah.
Dota.
So yeah, esports is a thing, has been around for a bit. We like to capitalize the S in it, but only the second S, like, lowercase e, lowercase s, and then sorry, that was a terrible joke. Let's not continue down that path. That's a dark path.
Esports debate.
But yeah, so there've been, a bunch of leagues of various games, and they've all been basically, the teams competing have been one of two things. They're either like a World Cup situation where you have players all coming from the same country competing, against other country teams. And then you have like, I guess it would sort of be akin to like football clubs where it's like this team is sponsored by, a team. It's like Cloud9 or Energy or Team Liquid, etc. And these teams, they're, it's just a group, a clan type situation, but they've never been tied to a location in the same way that that traditional, physical sports have been. So the Overwatch League kind of marries those two ideas by the teams are still owned by like major groups. There's like a team owned by Energy. There's a team owned by Cloud9. There's also a team owned by like the Kraft Group and like some of the people who own the LA Rams, the NFL team. But these different teams, they are tied to geographic locations, to cities specifically. So instead of cheering for like Cloud9, you're cheering for the Los Angeles Gladiators and the San Francisco Shock, the London Spitfire. So they're these different teams, city-based. And so that's kind of the idea behind Overwatch League, is to take esports and generate the regional, local appeal of hopefully getting fans to like care about your local team. And at least for me, it's kind of working. Like, so for me, at least, like I've lived in San Francisco for like 5 years now. I follow sports some, but like the sports team that I follow more than anything is like my college football team. And I've never really connected any with the San Francisco pro sports teams. But like, I'm pretty excited actually to like cheer for the San Francisco Shock, this esport, this Overwatch team that is, I'm not even sure if they like live here, but they are like representing San Francisco. And so it's like, I can be like, that's my team.
I'm curious, like, so do you think it'll generate the same kind of enthusiasm if there's no big stadium or like some kind of like location to?
Yeah, that's sort of a tough thing because like as far as I know, all of the matches take place in the Blizzard Esports Arena, which is in LA. So like all of these teams are there physically, like geographically. But I guess the idea is like you do have like team-based merch. You have local viewing parties. That is a thing that like Blizzard and the teams are planning to organize. Like I know that. So tonight, all of this is reason we're talking about this is because today is the launch of the Overwatch League preseason. The official inaugural season doesn't start until January 10th, I think, but
coming up
January. But yeah, as of today, 4 p.m. Pacific time this afternoon, are preseason matches, and they don't count towards like the standings or anything of the actual first season of the league, but they will. It's they're show matches, like I'm sure certainly to iron out some of the kinks of the whole process, but also to build interest, to get these teams playing each other and see some of the early matchups. And yeah, so like esports in general already has a pretty big following, like, and so I feel like the move to tie things to be geographic based, it doesn't hurt at all. Like if you're a fan of watching pro Overwatch, like you're not going to stop watching it just because the team you like is now called the Dallas Fuel instead of Team Energy or whatever. I don't remember the name, like which teams go with which organizations, but like the players that you like are still playing. Like these teams change their rosters all the time already. Like you're either a fan of specific players, and so you would follow them to like wherever they're playing, or you maybe are a fan of an organization and you follow whatever matchups like they have. But yeah, this like gives you if you never connected with anyone before, this gives you a reason to do so. It's like, okay, well, I want to watch some pro Overwatch, but like who's good, like which team should I root for? Because at least for me,
that question.
something that I've found really true with sports in general is like you care way more about it if you have a stake in the game, even if that stake is something as little as saying like, this is the team that I want to win. I've never really cared about watching, you know, pro sports of just like, I don't really get a lot of enjoyment of just like watching two teams play football that like aren't really, that I'm not connected to. But if it's the team that I have chosen to root for, whether it's my college team because I went there, or it's like, I'm from Atlanta, so like if I'm gonna root for a football team, like it's gonna be the Falcons.
Yeah.
But when they're not playing, I don't really care that much. There are people that do that just enjoy watching the game being played at a high level, and that's kind of the thing. Is thus far that has been one of the only reasons to really watch pro esports, is like just to watch the game being played at a high level.
Yeah.
This ties in that idea of, again, even if it being somewhat superficial, of just like having a thing to latch on to be like, this is my team, I'm going to root for them, I care about them winning. And, you know, even if it only brings in like 5 or even like 1% new viewers, like that's still growth in a market that is growing, but also needs growth. Overwatch has faced a lot of problems as a visual viewer esport.
Yeah.
It's a great game to play, but they have very much been working out how to make it enjoyable to watch.
My question is, and okay, let me first ask you guys: when you were kids in the schoolyard, did you or people you know have those puffy NFL jackets, those big puffy NFL jackets with
Some did, yeah. I remember those.
Yeah, Chris, you know what I'm talking about? Those big poofy ass NFL or maybe
Just
basketball
NFL
or
like
hockey,
for
NFL, NBA. There were always those big,
Like for a team, right?
like secondhand team jackets. Oh yeah. If we get kids wearing those, if you see like kids handing down San Francisco Shock Overwatch puffy jackets, that's how we know we've made it.
Over the weekend, I was up in, I wasn't too far outside the city, but I was in like a little general store halfway between San Francisco and Santa Cruz. I was with my girlfriend's family, like cutting down a Christmas tree, and we stopped in this little general store, and like I passed a kid wearing a Cloud9 jersey. Ooh. And I was like, he's, you know, 14 or 15 or something, and there already are viewers that care about this, and so but like him wearing a Cloud9 jersey, I'm like, I don't know what sport, like which game you are supporting. You just, I guess, like Cloud9 the team.
And anyone seeing that is not in on it. Like
it just sort of looks like a jersey.
Yeah.
I knew it looked like I knew it was an esports jersey, a gaming thing, but like that was his way of saying like, I'm a gamer and I like supporting this organization. I like watching them do their thing. Yeah, that's been a big thing, both in the physical world and in game that Overwatch League is doing. Is they have team branded merch, of course, for jerseys, hats, pins, everything you can think of that you can purchase, because of course, right, Blizzard wants you to buy merch. But also they just announced, we sort of knew about this, but they announced the specifics of it in the last day or two, that you can also purchase in-game skins that match because every team has like a custom-made color skin that are basically their uniforms. That's similar to the jerseys that basketball teams wear or soccer teams wear. You have a home jersey and an away jersey. There are these character skins that they'll be wearing in-game in their matches for viewers to help differentiate between one team and the other. But then also, as fans of that team, you can purchase those skins and equip them on your character in-game as a way of showing like, yeah, I'd support the SF Shock.
One quick question. So are these skins sold through a different system than the loot boxes?
They are.
So you're not just randomly getting a team?
Yeah, no, exactly.
Okay.
They are sold through a separate token system. They're not even through the like gold that you get in-game. They're actually a separate currency. I know they've said that everybody's going to get enough currency to buy like one jersey. I'm not sure if I buy the San Francisco one, if that then applies to all of my characters, or if I have to buy like the San Francisco Reinhardt jersey and then like the San Francisco Genji jersey. I'm not sure yet how that works. I also don't know how much these are going to cost, but they are purchased using the separate in-game currency that I believe is only attainable via money. And one of the reasons for that is they said that using this currency to purchase these items, a portion of the sale goes to support whichever team you are purchasing. So it is a way to, similar to buying a San Francisco Giants jersey in some way benefits the team somewhat. It is a way to show your support monetarily to the team that you are supporting.
That's cool. And so, okay, we know this is starting today, preseason. Are there any important matchups we need to know about? Or do we have an idea of like what these teams are looking like?
There's a bit
ranking wise. And
we have our Overwatch expert Damian Alonso has done a power rankings of the teams going into the preseason. The main thing, we basically rated them on a scale of 1 to the Seoul Dynasty because South Korea is far and away the best team. They won, the South Korean national team won Overwatch World Cup both years that it has existed. And they are far and away the favorite going into the season. But yeah, if you go back to the top here, the Philadelphia Fusion actually have a pretty solid roster. We originally ranked them about, I think, 7th or 8th.
Right.
But due to player logistics issues, we're not quite sure. I think there were possibly some visa issues getting the players into the U.S. because, like I said, these matches are being played in L.A. at the Blizzard Overwatch or Blizzard Esports Arena. So they pulled out of their preseason match. So we're like, well, if you're not playing, you can't have any power if you're not playing at all. Similarly, the San Francisco Shock, they have a decent roster, but 2 of their players, particularly Sinatra, one of their star DPS players, he's got to turn 18 before he can compete in the league. He's still 17. So once those 2 players actually turn 18 and can officially start playing, they will shoot up. The team will hopefully be in a better spot.
Cool.
Naturally, as we were here in San Francisco, it's the one that I'm rooting for.
Yeah, I'm excited. Like even at the meeting this morning, Tim was like suggested we just put the game on and watch it, and I felt a weird. I mean, I miss that sense of camaraderie.
Yeah, it's like you're
something
gathering around the team, the TV to support your team. So yeah, like I might lose interest. It might end up being a not great viewing experience, but the improvements that Blizzard has been making to the Overwatch viewing experience that they mainly rolled out in with the World Cup and BlizzCon last month, it really has improved a lot. In fact, if you go to the very bottom here, you can see the instant replay feature that they're now will be using to show really awesome plays. So
cool.
This is Ryu Jae-hong, one of South Korea's star players, pulling off an awesome sleep dart on Genji by Agilities.
Right on. Yeah, get some awesome casters in there, and Blizzard, as long as they keep developing these tools, it's going to be interesting to see how they address the challenge of the watchability of the game.
Yeah, they've really been putting a lot of focus into that. Like the big thing rolled out so far was having everything skin to even abilities and all color coded, so you can really see like which team is which. That was a big problem starting off. Was when you're playing the game, all the entire other team is silhouetted in red, so you can obviously see like, okay, they're on that team versus my team. But like when you're from a third party perspective, it's very easy to lose track of who's on which team, and especially as they're switching from perspectives from a third person view to then first person of one team to another character, and then maybe switching to the other team perspective. It was very confusing. So yeah, the coloring helps a lot, and also it's a whole production. People doing instant replay stuff, doing analysis. They have people watching the match from this third-party kind of map overlay type situation to follow the action, to make sure they always have a camera on what's going on. So it's a whole production.
I'm excited.
Pretty excited. I mean, it's a pretty big bet by Blizzard that this will hopefully take off. But if it does, I hope it works out for them, because I think it's really cool, and it is a thing of the future. So
yeah.
When I went to an H1Z1 tournament, I think very early this year, maybe in February or something, and there were 15 teams in one. They were kind of like the underdog. They were kind of like the write-in. I think they had one slot for some very good teams to, I think we basically boiled down to what was like an essay contest in a way to get included. And they were called the Ohio Rebels. And they were, I think all four of them, it might have just been 3 or 4, but they were actually all from Ohio. And there's something kind of cool about that. Like you say, it does kind of, I mean, I'm not from Ohio. I have no stake in it at all, but it was kind of like, oh, these guys are like a local team from Ohio. It just gives that kind of sense of place that somehow, like you said, is kind of missing a bit. And they came in last, but it was still kind of cool to just because it did feel more like a team as we kind of think of it from traditional sports, like you said. So I think it's kind of cool.
Corn-fed gamer guys. Yeah. Are these teams okay? So are these teams privately owned?
Yeah. Okay. As far as I don't understand the total specifics of the business end of things, but yeah, these teams are, you have to I think it takes a $20 million to purchase a team spot in the league. And so these teams many of them are owned by either esports organizations. So Energy is an example, and I believe that Energy is the organization behind the SF Shock, and some of the investors in Energy are people such as Shaquille O'Neal, Jennifer Lopez, what's his name? Beast Mode. What's that guy's name?
Oh, God.
Football player. Yeah,
it's escaping me.
I can't remember his name right now.
Well, that's reassuring, because I would love to see, like Chris said, some if this picks up some real, I don't know, because it's an opportunity also for, I don't know, sports organizations, or like for places that maybe could not have a team otherwise, to have a team.
Yeah, I mean, there it is, Marshawn Lynch.
Lynch.
Thank you, Stabby McStab in the comments.
That's good.
Yeah, Marshawn Lynch, Beast Mode is a part owner of NRG at this point. But yeah, I mean, it's very similar to traditional sports organizations, where you think of there is an owner of each team, but that it's a part owner of the team, and this is more just, I guess, adds a layer to that of owners of the organization, which then own the team. So
Stabby McStab says we're killing him with the sports references. Sorry about that. Anything else to know about this? We just kind of wait and see how it rolls out.
Yeah. Go Shock, I guess.
Yeah, go Shock.
As I said, the Philadelphia team pulled out of the preseason,
Right.
so the SF Shock is filling in for them. So they actually have a doubleheader today. They're playing at, I think, 4 and 5 p.m. Pacific time. So
right on.
Looking forward to that.
That should be a good time. Let me change this here. Well, sports. There's no clean segue between electronic sports and Destiny, unless you guys can think of one.
That is an electronic game.
Speaking of balls in the air, which are things in sports, Destiny is a game set in space, which has spheres. There's a new Destiny expansion, and it's pretty good. It's called Destiny 2 Curse of Osiris. I've played through the bulk of this, and I know neither of you guys really give a shit. So if Tim was here, I'm just going to pretend he were and channel Tim.
Hi, I'm Tim Clark, and you can just talk to me about Destiny now.
Here's the thing about Destiny 2, and 30 minutes later, Curse of Osiris is the first expansion to Destiny 2. It's pretty small compared to most of what we saw at the end of the first Destiny, which a lot of PC players wouldn't be familiar with. There's no raid included. There's a raid layer, though, a smaller raid, which is a first. There's a couple story missions. There are 2 strikes. multiplayer map, a whole bunch of new items. It's a big just content dump. Kind of hard to think of it at. A lot of people are actually criticizing it on the subreddit and Twitter and such, saying it feels like they are paying for a subscription for the game to incrementally grow like an MMO, as opposed to getting a true expansion, which I think is fair, but it's sort of the nature of these live games. Curse of Osiris, it's a really weird thing. It takes place on Mercury, which is sort of in mid-conversion by the Vex, a big goopy robotic alien species that has the ultimate end goal of wanting to basically process the entire universe to best suit their needs, like literally process it like meat or potatoes for potato chips, to chunk up and regurgitate planets into these beautiful blocks that extend their network. And you show up right outside something called the Infinite Forest, looking for Osiris. I'm not going to get into too much in the lore because it just sounds stupid. Tim would do a better job explaining it. Brief impressions, though. It's more Destiny. It does not fix the end game problem a lot of people have with it. We're starting to see some of those changes come in incrementally, including exotic ornaments and just legendary item ornaments. And these are sort of meta challenges, I guess you might call them, that extend beyond one character and spreads across all three. So you might talk to a strike vendor, and if you get 1,000 kills across 3 characters in strikes, you will get an ornament reward that then alters how a pair of pants looks, which is just a really exciting thing. And that's nice. That's a nice thing to have. It doesn't ultimately change the way you're going to be playing, but something that I thought was abandoned, or at least like there was not incentivized properly, were the strikes, which I think are some of the best stuff in Destiny. They're these like short, direct, maybe 10 to 15 minute like sprints, very linear sprints through mobs and a boss and some type of platforming challenge, typically, that are fairly challenging or can be fairly challenging, and usually in the first game at least doled out fairly decent rewards. That wasn't the case with Destiny 2. Now they just there's Heroic Strike playlist, which ups the difficulty a little bit and just spits out rewards. At the end, there's a new chest animation that it just pops open, and it's so dumb. It should not please me to see a chest burst open and just polygons to rain out that are abstracted as value, essentially. I see shiny shapes, and I get excited now. That's the state of video games, I suppose, for me at least. Beyond that, it took me like 1.5 hours to get through the campaign. There's something called the Infinite Forest, which is supposed to sort of extend the value of the campaign. It's not a...
Is it infinite?
Infinitely?
Not infinitely. That's the problem. It
I feel like that's false advertising.
It's deceptive, I would say. It's not quite procedural generation, but it chunks. It takes.
Is the forest part true, at least? Are there trees?
There are trees, but
There's nothing true about this place,
I'm
apparently.
overwhelmed by this whole thing.
It's all-
Infinite, and there are
Welcome to the
trees.
Infinite Forest. It is neither infinite nor a forest.
Well, to be fair, most of the naming scheme in Destiny like is just a lie for most items in general. But the Infinite Forest is basically random blocks arranged in a row, level blocks, like, so you might get platforms of certain shapes and that don't really articulate in interesting ways. It's just like, here you might have, when it starts off, you might have a flat platform full of Vex enemies, and that's cool. And then you open a gate at the end after defeating them, and it generates a new block with new enemies. So this block might be wiggle around a bit, and have a second level you can go up on top of, and a bottom level you can go up on top of, and it might feature a mix of Cabal and Fallen, and that's cool to get, all these different enemy types and strung next to one another randomly. It's just that the level design does not, it's like I said, it doesn't articulate in interesting ways. It's not like the the different blocks force you to play differently or arrange the enemies in interesting ways. It just kind of spits them out.
It sort of reminds me of those back. I think it was like the first Metal Gear Solid, like the VR. I don't think they were VR, but like the tactical missions that were just like bare corridors and stuff. It was pure just level design without any no graphics or anything over it. You were playing against like holographic enemies.
Yeah, it's pretty close to feeling like that, and I don't know. You can infinitely adventure in there, and there are now heroic level adventures which contain modifiers. So you can go through these levels, and they basically play out like a simpler version of the Nightfall Strike. So you might have prisms or something that you have to shoot to extend your timer. You might have to rotate between different elemental weapon types to do damage. That stuff is interesting, and the stakes are much lower. But the levels are it just loses its appeal very quickly. So that's a huge bummer. The strikes are very, very cool, though. They're part of the main quest this time, which I appreciate. Some people will think that's somehow two birds, one stoning and taking away value from what they pay for. But I think it's fine. The strikes are the best part of the game anyway. I call them, it's like the perfect beer game is Heroic Strike playlist. Just pop it on, get 3 friends, and have a beer. Let the night take you where it will, which is just to the end of the level, I suppose. I don't think this is going to be a reason to buy the season pass quite yet. There's a ton of new loot. The problem is a lot of it is in the Eververse store, which is I don't want to talk about loot boxes ever again, but it is the loot box store, essentially. Every time you level up, you get they are now called illuminated engrams. That dumps out shaders, mod parts, and cosmetic items like sparrow, ships, and now exotic ghosts, which actually have significant effect on certain stats, which is kind of bizarre that you can only get these really powerful items within this store. It rubs me the wrong way. And I would rather see these rewards placed at as incentives for playing the game in different ways. We'll see. I don't know. It's kind of too early to judge, Curse of Osiris as Bungie's first attempt to address the end game, because it's just too soon for that. They've been working on this far before they, had all the criticism that's recently come out. This month, though, shortly, I think the 12th or something is when they start rolling out masterclass weapons and all these things they detailed in their State of the Game blog, which will be just a ton of tiny changes that hopefully make the game better for hobbyist players, as they call them. A lot of that stuff is coming next year, too, so a big update coming in January as well. We'll see how it goes. I'm having a fine time just playing that game once a week, hopping in, getting a couple engrams, playing a strike or two with some friends, and calling it good. The real thing I'm looking forward to, though, is Friday. The raid layer's coming out. Eater of Worlds. Chris, I think you had a problem with that name. Eater of Worlds.
Yeah, it's just call yourself World Eater. Eater of Worlds. I don't know. It's a little snobby.
Just
call yourself World Eater.
That comes out Friday. That's a short raid. We'll see how it goes. From what we've seen of it, has some very, very cool vistas, which is the thing Destiny 2 is most reliable for. Good looking space desktops. So, I don't know. I have a feeling that Curse of Osiris won't be enough for a lot of people, but for me, the once a week guy, I'm digging it. And with that,
right on.
Yeah, let's move to our final segment, Twitch chat Q&A. So in the chat, please tag at PC Gamer if you have a question about anything that's happened this week in games, or any questions you have maybe on the year in games now that we're about to wrap up 2017. Maybe you have questions about the future of games. Who knows? First of all, though, we are going to address the questions we got in our Discord chat, our club Discord chat. If you don't know, PC Gamer has a club. It's not a room that you go to drink fancy drinks at, unfortunately, but it is a subscription to our website. You can check that out at club.pcgamer.com. You get an ad-free experience to the site. You get a free game each month. You get a digital subscription to the mag. Did I say ad-free experience on the site?
You did.
Oh my God, I'm losing my mind. And to the show, I just don't even know what I'm saying half the time. You get some lovely JPEGs of Tub Geralt.
And you get to hang out with us in our private Discord.
And it's amazing seeing how much the Discord has grown and changed over time. It's just, we have a ton of regulars in there. It's one of my favorite places to just hang out when I have a spare hour or when I do want to play games. Lately, we've been, our Destiny clan is super active. And lately, Rainbow Six Siege has been getting a lot of traction in the club. Evan's been spearheading that movement. There's a new update coming to Rainbow Six Siege pretty soon. New operators. Maybe it's already out. I don't know. But people have been hitting that hard, and it's been a lot of fun. I played with them and a couple club members last weekend, and it was a great time. That game makes me way too tense, though. I get all sweaty and weird. Okay, so let's answer our Discord questions first, starting with one from Janrin. I can't read this. Is it Janrin? Yeah,
So it looks like Janrin.
It's all those crowded tiny letters are difficult to read. You'll probs talk about it anyway, but this is a card question, so Bo, you might have to help me here.
I can answer this, yeah.
But kobolds
and catacombs.
Catacombs hype. Is that what the Twitch people say? Hype. So what decks will you be playing once it's released? What is this?
Yeah, this is it's a Hearthstone thing. Good old wizard poker, as Tim was the one to refer to it. Kobolds and Catacombs, a new expansion for Hearthstone, comes out tomorrow, I believe. It sort of snuck up on me. All of the cards have been revealed at this point. I haven't actually looked through all of them, but I've seen some of the cool ones. One that I'm pretty excited to play around with. I mostly play Arena instead of Constructed, but I don't know. This set seems. Maybe I say this before every set, but like this set in particular, it's really complicated. Like the cards are getting more and more complex. Like for a long time, Hearthstone kind of had this. It seemed like Blizzard had this sentiment of like, we can't make our cards too complicated. It's got to be really beginner friendly. And thankfully, over the last couple sets, they've been more willing to print really complex card text, having these weird interactions. And I think that makes the game more exciting. Like it was feeling a little stale for a while there, for me at least. But yeah, so something I'm excited about. I think the Rogue Legendary weapon is really, really cool. It's called Kingsbane. It's like I think it's a 1-mana, 1/3 weapon. But what is really cool about it is it has a Death Rattle that when Death Rattle, you shuffle it back into your deck, and it keeps any enhancements that you've put on it. So like if you get it early game and then you toss a Deadly Poison on it, it's then a 3/3, and then like if you draw it again, like it's still that 3/3 weapon. So I think there will be probably a new archetype built around this weapon. There's a card, I think it's called like Cavern Shiny Finder, which is a great name. That it's like a 3/1 minion that I think it has either a Battle Cry or Death Rattle that searches your deck for a weapon and either puts it in your hand or puts it into play. I can't remember, but anyway, it's like it'll help you seek out your weapon. There's a couple of different cards that are being printed that helps you pull weapons out of your deck. So those used in conjunction with this Kingsbane card. There'll probably be a new deck archetype built around like Weapon Rogue, about buffing up your weapon and getting it back. So
cool.
I played a bunch of Rogue back in WoW. That was my main. So I've always wanted to make Rogue work in Hearthstone. There are various archetypes out there, but I don't know. This one seems cool to me. So that is the deck that I am most excited about.
I'm glad that game is still.
Oh, it is still kicking.
Still kicking quite hard, despite all the drama I hear about it.
There's some
the
drama,
ups and downs,
yeah,
but
it's still going. It's a fun game. Tim enjoys it greatly. It obviously still has a large following.
Cool.
So yeah, I'm pretty on board.
Right on. Thanks, Bo. Sir Digby asks, am I wrong for not jumping on the PUBG hype?
You are not wrong.
Yeah.
I have never played this game, and I feel pretty okay about that.
Our lights just dimmed. Bo,
you gotta go like dance around for a minute.
I don't know what happened. It's not detecting our movement, which might be a problem in the future.
We will have to move this.
Okay. Hey, new room. We're figuring it out.
Working it out.
That was not a scary portent from Player Unknown, our new
Player
god.
Unknown. He heard that I don't play his game, and he was making his presence unknown to me.
Oh my god. So yeah,
I feel like too, like there's no real rush. The game's obviously gonna have some legs, so if you want to jump in further down the line, it doesn't seem like a train you're really gonna miss at this point if it keeps doing so well.
The one thing that does make me sort of regret not playing this game, assuming that I do play it at some point in the future, is there's kind of this notion these days about games that are ever evolving and getting updates that, like, you almost feel an obligation to always be playing them, because if the game changes significantly, which, like, it is going to, for example, like, it's getting new maps, but also, like, the mechanics are changing. They're adding the vaulting and climbing and stuff. For all we know, that may, like, significantly change the game experience. I don't think it really will, but the point I'm making is, like, at some point they may add something or change something that, like, drastically changes the experience. And, you know, you hear people talk about, like, oh, I played WoW back in vanilla WoW, and, like, at least until they announced that there are new vanilla WoW servers coming, like, you can no longer play that game in that state. Like, like, the game changes and you have to play the new and updated version. So for PUBG, at least, I don't think I'm really missing out on anything, but maybe if, you know, assuming it's still kicking in like 3 or 4 years and I decide to pick it up and I really like it, but then people are like, oh yeah, it's great now, but, like, it was so good back when it was in beta or alpha or whatever the hell mode it's in right now. Early access, that's what it's called. Yeah, you know, maybe people are like, it was so good back then. The game was, or even if it was bad, like, it was really fun because it was weird and broken and, you know, not full of all this other stuff. So that's the only reasoning I have for thinking I'm missing out on it, but I also kind of don't care. It's
fine. I mean, I have 3 hours in that game. I can say it's not for everyone because it stresses me out. The openness of the map, knowing that there are, like, it's stressful enough to play a Call of Duty match and know that there are probably like 4 to 5 people on there that I will never be better than.
Yeah.
But it's extra stressful knowing in a PUBG match, in any given PUBG match, there are likely 40 people that I will never be better than. And if I do win, it will be by dumb luck or cowardice. So I don't know. That always puts me off. Plus just the feeling of being, I don't know. It freaks me out. I would make a case. Sorry, Chris, go for it.
I was going to say, for me, it's like, I don't like starting a game over every half hour, like, win or lose. Like, I don't know, when I run around picking things up, I want to keep them for more than 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I think I just feel like landing and looting, starting over each time, like, that kind of burns me out kind of quickly, I guess.
I feel you. I will make a case, if you're not interested, whoever asked this question, I forgot, Sir Digby, for Fortnite Battle Royale, which is...
you've been playing a fair bit of that, right?
Well, here's the thing. I even haven't been playing a lot of it, but I've loved watching it. It's a really fun thing to watch. It's a great if you have certain streamers to watch that are good at it. Because I just die immediately in that game.
Right.
But it's free to play, so you can give it a shot. You know, without worrying about losing any money if you don't like it. But it also is a much more playful, lighthearted take on Battle Royale.
What was it at Halloween? There was like a pumpkin rocket that you could jet ride on, surf on the
one
rocket.
After another, they've been releasing wacky items. So the first happy accident was rocket riding. So they had a Halloween update with a pumpkin rocket. And there was the pumpkin rocket had hit detection, like it was a physical object that you could stand on. So people were firing them, leaping on them as they, under their feet, and riding these rockets across the map, sniping people from them.
That's amazing.
They were also like hitting walls or falling to their death at the
Certainly.
end. But it's this really
Worth it.
high risk, high reward, stupid thing that like would not happen in PUBG and like should not happen in PUBG. They added a potion that you can find in the world that lets you turn into a bush. So you can just become a bush, and there's just so many funny gifs of just like these little bushes marching like a goddamn Looney Tune or something. Elmer Fudd trying to sneak up on Bugs Bunny or something. They added a launch pad, which you can build this. It's a trap. It's a trap archetype, I suppose. But you build this, and it will launch you high enough into the sky to re-enable your glider. So it's basically like a tiny skydive in the same way that you get to skydive on the map at the beginning. And there's some really cool infiltrations and like sly deaths that happen as a result of this. They added a smoke grenade recently. They added silenced SMG, and they have announced that they're going to announce something that I know about this Thursday. So there's a lot more playful and lighthearted if you're looking for something that is less stressful. Yes, Fortnite Battle Royale, for those of you who came in a little late. Fortnite Battle Royale, a different, interesting take on that genre. Thanks for the question, Sir Digby. On to JBJ Blaze. I will follow up this question with a show. Next Wednesday going to be the last show for this year until after your Christmas holidays? Good question, and I think so, because we're all leaving. All leaving. We're going to be, a lot of us are either going on vacation or working remotely. So I'll be in Montana, and I don't want to run a show from my dad's living room. That would be, you would probably hear something you don't want to hear. So yeah, next week, expect us to go on hiatus for a little bit. But yeah, you won't need us. You won't miss us. You're going to be eating and drinking and breaking just as hard. Another question here from Varen Deal. This is one for Chris, because Chris is our racing guy. He loves racing sims and F1. He just loves that stuff. Racing has never been particularly big in esports, especially compared with the FPS MOBA, RTS, and FPS genres. However, with current F1 driver and two-time world champion Fernando Alonso now having started his own team under the G2 esports team and signing up with Logitech to create better racing peripherals, could we see that change? Or is this likely to amount to nothing? Chris, what do you think?
Yes, we can see that change. That's my entire answer.
There's your pro answer. To be honest, I don't know if any of us are really
I don't follow that scene much at all.
I think the reason that my take reading this question, and the reason I included it, even though I knew none of us would know, is I don't think driving will ever become a popular esport personally, especially if it's a sim, because it is too much like the real thing. I don't know. There's these games like Battle Royale and MOBAs and Overwatch are abstract and different.
I mean, there are like competitions for like pro Madden and like pro, NBA 2K or whatever the NBA game that people play is. There are competitions for that, but they're almost like, I feel they are esports, but they're like sort of treated almost differently. They fall into this different category almost of they're like the MLG games kind of, as compared to like the esports types games. So yeah, it could fall into that, but yeah, there's definitely a difference between these games that have a real world equivalent versus games that are purely gamey and have this abstraction to them.
Gamey, leave a taste in your mouth.
Yeah, because to be a pro, the most realistic version of a racing game or sim is just trying to get it as close as you can to the real thing. And so people are probably, especially if you want to have this esport as a viewer-based experience, which is what esports need in order to survive. They're basically, what I'm trying to say is they're probably and certainly may develop a pro scene around this game or these games, the
Yeah.
genre, based upon these peripherals and stuff. But I don't think it's going to make too much of a difference in terms of the viewership, because
No.
why watch people race a racing game when you can just watch an actual
Yeah.
F1
Yeah,
race?
especially when these racing games are trying to be more realistic all
Yeah,
the time. every
exactly.
year. Short story here. I don't know. I played. Have you guys ever been to a game event and you've seen maybe Project Cars 2 or some racing sim, and they've got like a VR headset there, and they've got a big chair and a seatbelt that is supposed
like
to
a full
simulate
thing.
like the shake, and like the seatbelt actually like presses on you. So I did this once this summer at like a pre-E3 week or something, and it was in a hotel room, whatever. I was like, oh yeah, I'll do this. I'm awful at these games, and I will most certainly spin out. And I was just so amazed how cool it was. The VR plus like the force feedback on your whole body, the seatbelt slowly making it harder to breathe when I like accelerate. It felt about as real as any game has ever felt to me, except there were so many demo stations in this hotel room that when I'm driving this like F1 car, I'm going top speed, and and I spin out obviously and hit a wall. As soon as I hit the wall, the power went out in this room, and I thought I died. I thought like something had happened to me. It was so fucked
Like
up.
perfectly timed.
It was so fucked up. I've never been so just confused and
Oh,
bewildered
man.
in my life.
If
Anyway,
you die in a VR racing game, you die for real.
Yeah, it's true.
that would be the
Player unknown
lamest
comes down from
episode of
above,
X-Files.
Turns
Just
the lights off.
Anyway, so that was bad. Moving on. Maniac86 asks, what are some of the best, even franchise-redeeming sequels to otherwise mediocre or even terrible games? And it gives an example here. The Witcher 3 doesn't count because The Witcher 2 was still a great game. However, Titanfall 2 has met critical acclaim, while Titanfall 1 was pretty ho-hum and died quickly. I disagree. I think it was a great game. But I get it. Is there anything that stands out to you guys? I wrote a few down here, but I'll hear what you got to say
I
first.
feel like terrible games don't typically get sequels. I think, good games often get better sequels.
This is true.
See them improve.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think of like a really rotten game that got a sequel that was good, because I feel like rotten games don't really very often get.
I feel like a good example is not that the first game was bad, but if you go back to the original Assassin's Creed, that game was like kind of nothing. It was
gonna
just
say.
like I remember specifically playing it at the time and being like, this is a really cool. I mean, at this point, the genre is very kind of old hat by now, since there's been so many Assassin's Creed games. But at the time, it was this cool open world
Yeah.
with the assassinations and the parkour and the climbing and the exploration and everything. But like the stuff to do in that game was like very limited. There were like a bunch of stupid little fetch quests and like the main assassinations, but even then they were just like, go here, kill this guy, do a thing. And it was like they built this really cool sandbox, but there were no toys in it. And I was really excited for the future of that franchise, because they then took these systems that they built, and then now with them then being actually built, they've gotten that out of the way. They can then focus on building out content for this system. So to that end, I think that the Assassin's Creed franchise, for better, it has now kind of gone back over, looped back around, where we hit the overload of too many of those games, and it's I hear Origin's good, so
I like it.
Came back around again. But yeah, the sequels, because like Assassin's Creed 2, and I think widely considered AC2 was
very
considered
good.
way better than
Brotherhood
than
as
the
well
first
was
one.
great.
Brotherhood, Brotherhood was great.
Those are good. I got a
There was
couple.
also Prey, the original Prey,
Hey.
and then
Yeah.
a sequel called also Prey, which wasn't quite a sequel,
No.
I guess. But
Just like
that's all I can really think of.
an intellectual property to attach a new game to. I
Guys,
guess, but
have you heard of this game? It's called Half-Life 2.
stop it. Get the fuck out.
An original PU.
Yeah.
What a
Gross.
stinker. I got a couple here I'm going to list that I don't know firsthand, but I'm surprised Homefront got a sequel. The Homefront: The Revolution was the sequel, and I've heard like it was reviewed kind of poorly, but I've heard from people I trust that it's actually way better than maybe those reviews, or at least there's something redeeming there about that game. I think Jules, one of our mods, was really into it. This one's debatable. I thought the first Evil Within was trash. Evil Within 2, picture perfect. Video game perfect. There's no idiom that fits the same. Just Cause, the first Just Cause, not great from my understanding. Just Cause 2.
Just Cause 2 was awesome compared.
Pretty great. And Saints Row. I think I was surprised there was a Saints Row 2 period, but I guess it maybe sold enough. And then Saints Row 3 and 4 were, I think, pretty fun, interesting sequels for that game, that series at least. Okay.
I can pull out one more that I'm thinking of.
Let's do it.
I haven't played these games themselves, so I forget and don't totally know exactly which one I'm referring to. But if we're gonna go JRPG for a second, there's the I think it's the Trails in the Sky series.
Okay.
The first one, Wes knows these way better than I do, but as I understand it, the Trails in the Sky is like sort of okay, but Trails of Cold Steel, which came later, is better, I think.
There you go.
I don't know, something like that.
We can be surprised.
Probably shouldn't have brought that up, not actually knowing anything about it.
It's all good.
It's a video game.
Got to have a JRPG in every episode.
Yeah.
Draconis Has Muffins asks, that's a hell of a name, is there any game that you've played where you were emotionally invested in your character's life and found yourself upset at their death even if they respond? So I don't know, there's nothing comes to mind for me, but have you guys ever been at least played a game where death seems like way more of a punishment than you're willing to handle, where it seems like something you just can't allow?
I'm kind of going through that with Nier a little bit right now, but
yeah.
I mean, it's built into the system. It's built into the game where you have a risk of losing stuff. I think it really helps generate these situations if you have some type of permadeath built into the game, or at least consequences. I remember the first MMO that I played was Asheron's Call, and when you died in that game, you got hit with a debuff that you had to work off, level up to work off the debuff, as well as you dropped your most expensive items. So once you became good at this game, it was expensive via whatever the end game cost was. So you actually there were items that you would specifically have on you that had no actual value in terms of stats, but they just had a high item value, so they were considered your death items. So you would always drop those and not actually lose any of your gear when you died. But if you didn't have those, you would sometimes drop your gear, and you had to go back and you had to go back to your body and collect these things. So if you were stuck out in stuck in some difficult area, death was a real risk, because you then had to get back out there to your body and collect it with less gear than you normally would have. So it was it could be tough. That was a fun game. That was my first MMO.
Chris, any characters?
When I think about dying in a game and feeling some sort of effect from it, I always got to go back to Stalker, because if you died in Stalker, often it was just very abruptly. Anything seemingly could kill you at any time, because even when you got geared up and even when you got cool weapons, you're still fragile. You don't ever become a Superman. It's not an RPG where you become this incredibly powered person. You're always very mortal in that game. But you can drop to the head from some nobody NPC, and you can just drop, and it just drops you. Doesn't say you're dead. It says lost to the zone. It just comes on the screen, which is depressing. You just feel like you're lost to the zone. Your body's just gonna lie in this hellscape in a bush, and no one's ever gonna look for you. I don't know. It's a very affecting type of death, kind of abrupt and harrowing.
Sorry, we're getting some weird mic interference here. I don't know what it's from, but
Is it me because there's leaf blowers outside the
I
window?
don't think so.
We're getting like a tapping
It's like a
sound.
tapping. It might be. I wonder if it's like text or something. I don't know. That's weird. I can cut that bit out. Maybe. Probably.
We'll see.
Looks like it stopped. Okay. I'll cut that bit out then. Yeah, I can't think of anything. I don't feel anything about any fictional character ever.
In a weird way, like a little bit in the new Tomb Raider games, partially because the death animations were like so
Pretty
overdone
rough.
and really grotesque. I don't know if I had like an emotional attachment to Lara Croft in those games, but like a little bit. You know, especially in the first one of the rebooted series. I mean, like you're like stranded on this island and you're really beat up and like dang, Lara, I just want a good life for you. I just want to get you home.
Get this rebar out of your abdomen.
Yeah, I'm sorry that you keep getting stabbed by rebar and like spiky things and have these
Good
island
God.
monster people like ripping you apart. So I'm gonna try and keep you not dying so that you don't have to go through this.
Oof, rough stuff. Let's do one or two more here. I'm not going to answer this one because I don't really have anything to say about it. Damn Good Gamer. I just want to mention it because it makes me happy. There were rumors about Dark Souls 1 remaster. That's the first I'm hearing about it. You think it's true? I don't know. If yes, do you think that it'll be console exclusive? Whatever. I couldn't answer that. I'd rather have Demon Souls remaster. I agree. But here I am. I want to echo. I want to put this energy and thought into the world that a Dark Souls 1 remaster would be excellent. Maybe with modding tools built in and some better textures and some... Anyway. The real question I want to ask is JBJ Blaze, first of all, has subscribed for 2 years in a nonstop. Continuous
Dang.
2 years has been our guy. So we really, really appreciate that. It's... God damn, I can't believe it's been 2 years. It's kind of freaking me out, to be honest. 2 years, he asks, and I'm finally back on time. If you've not caught my cue already, if Destiny 2 is to add a new class to the roster, what would you want it to be? I'd go for a magician with magical guns.
Ooh.
Being a glass cannon be a thing? Can being a glass cannon be a thing? Is I think what he meant there. Yeah, I don't know. I've thought about this a lot, and I don't know if you guys have any input without much Destiny experience.
I haven't played that game.
Yeah, so
I don't know. But that sounds cool. Yeah, because you got like your kind of fast and shooty guy and your slow and tanky guy,
Yeah.
and then I don't know what the third one is.
yeah, that's the warlock, which is already sort of a space magician, which is I don't know. I'm
Space
interested.
wizard. Nice.
Yeah. So and they are healers and slower and tend to have more healing or damage buff abilities. I don't know. See, I've thought about what would fit into that trio. It's like a pretty tight trio, and a lot of the encounters are designed around that trio. And introducing a brand new archetype.
Is there room for like a melee based type?
I mean, Hunter sort of does some of that already. So I don't know. I don't think they'll ever add, knock on wood, ever add a new class. But I think they will continue to iterate with subclasses, excuse me, which, kind of those build out the play styles of each with an arc, solar, and void subclass. Each kind of focuses on AoE damage or maybe a team buff or, something like that. So I couldn't tell you, man.
What about like a builder engineer type or like a pet based thing where some type of
that could work.
extra where you're doing kind of more control versus the direct thing.
That could work. That would be interesting. Some kind of engineer, maybe with like a little AI buddy that you can plant down or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Like a turret builder or going back to like WoW classes, you had like the hunter where you had your bear or tiger pet or whatever.
That's a tough call. I don't know, but I really hope
they like stealth.
Yeah, the hunter does that too, sort of.
Yeah.
It's just like I don't know. All these experiences or the scenarios are pretty tightly designed that it's hard for me to see anything else really necessary or something that changes it up in an interesting, meaningful way without breaking everything else. But hey, that's what game designers are for. So I'm sure they're thinking of something. And with that, I think we're gonna close out the show for the day. You can always catch us here 1 p.m. Every Wednesday, 1 p.m. Pacific time, I should say. at twitch.tv/PCGamer. You can always catch the show afterwards at youtube.com/PCGamer if you want the video on demand. You can catch the show in audio format, pcgamer.com/tag/podcast. We link to the RSS feed and the iTunes feed in there. But until next week, during which I think we're going to do, since next week is the last show of the year, potentially, we can do some kind of cool reflection or maybe tease some of our personal picks for game of the year or something like that. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, with that, we'll see you next week.
Bye.